hit the intro. Good morning. Today, I want to make a simple but bold case that rural and semi-rural communities should be front and center in the next phase of our digital and energy transitions. Rather than seeing data centers as remote, extractive facilities, we can design them as low-footprint engines of responsible growth. Civic activists, government officials, and elected representatives are proposing a new model: compact, energy-efficient facilities co-located with renewables, battery storage, and heat recovery systems governed by transparent community benefit agreements and built to strict life cycle carbon and water standards. Done right, these centers create skilled jobs, stable fiscal revenue, local energy resilience, and household level benefits while accelerating the global clean energy transition. And now we're going to make our case.
Next slide, please. Here you see an illustration of some of the rampant impacts of data centers on clean energy, water supply, and farmland. So our mission and goal are to foster accountability for data centers in order to reinforce sustainable growth and resilience in communities. We intend to advance policy solutions that promote fair infrastructure costs, clean energy, water conservation, and binding community benefits and protection. Next, Lauren.
When I look at my 2-year-old granddaughter, I see pure possibility, her laughter, her curiosity, her boundless future. Yet I can't help but wonder, what kind of world will she and her generation inherit from us? The choices we make today about energy, water, and the impacts on vulnerable communities will shape her tomorrow. So we owe it to her generation and to every child to make decisions that safeguard their freedom to dream, to thrive, to choose their own path. We must act with love, with courage, before it's too late. Ryan?
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, so data centers really can be double-edged swords. In our increasingly digital economy, they are a vital piece of infrastructure. They can bring investment, they can improve and secure business operations, and they can also create jobs through the construction of the centers. But in states like Virginia and Arizona that have these very large data center markets, they've had to deal with things like noise pollution, strained energy supply, and also strained water supply. In Virginia specifically, we have a lot of Civil War battlefields that are actually endangered now because of the large amount of land that you need to construct these big data center campuses. But if you look at countries like Ukraine, they need data centers because they are powering things like hospitals and other pieces of critical infrastructure, as well as many businesses. So data centers have a lot of costs, but they also have a lot of it's going to become more and more prevalent in our society, in our economy, and grow due to larger demand. Now I'm going to pass it on to Kat. Kat, you're on mute.
Thank you. The exponential growth of data centers also means exponential growth of impacts. Next slide, please. There's a wide range of impacts that are both local and global. They can be societal and environmental. Next slide, please. There's also consideration to be given to the byproducts of data centers that can even include e-waste and harm to ecosystems. Next slide, please. And ultimately, this leaves us with the question as we look at impacts on land, water, air, communities. How do we begin to address these impacts? I pass this off to Oksana to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. So now, when the problem is clear, let's look into how we see a solution could look like. If, from the outset of decision-making on the siting and sourcing of new data centers, communities and their representatives are equipped with the tools to ensure that these facilities bring benefits rather than harm, then data centers could become engines of opportunity, creating jobs, funding local infrastructure, and driving prosperous development of communities. So what is needed? In addition to increased awareness and capacity of stakeholders, they should have in their arsenal specific policy tools. And here on the next slide, indeed, you can see the list of instruments which our group believes can serve this goal. And here, over to you, Andrea, to present the community toolkit instrument.
When a data center comes knocking, communities need the right tools to decide if it's truly a good deal. This starts with baseline data collection, understanding the real impact on water, land, energy, and jobs. Then comes an impact assessment framework that weighs environmental costs, social equity, economic trade-offs, and even health and safety concerns. Next, communities should look to negotiation guides, examples from around the world where residents secured real accountability, from local hiring to renewable energy commitments. Alongside that, we need legal and policy tools, model ordinances, zoning rules, and oversight boards to make sure that promises are kept. And with that, groundwork, a decision-making scorecard helps weigh the costs against the benefits in a clear and transparent way. And finally, strong communication and organizing ensures that the public is engaged, informed, and part of the process. This isn't saying no to technology, it's saying yes on a community's own terms. And we'll now go into more depth about how this works in each area. Now, Lauren.
Thank you. So major data center companies like Google, Meta, and Amazon have the financial resources and climate goals to pursue sustainability. But realistically, achieving these actions require utilities, regulators, and policymakers to step up. At the state level, in the US, we must move beyond outdated tax breaks designed to lure data centers and instead advance policies that reflect today's challenges. Two priorities stand out. First, advancing the energy transition through clean energy requirements, cost shifting away from ratepayers, innovative load shifting, and energy efficiency best practices. Second priority, protecting customers and communities by ensuring data center companies pay their fair share and don't leave behind stranded assets that burden ratepayers. This balanced approach, focusing on the energy transition and protecting customers, will secure both sustainability and justice in the digital economy. Because in the end, a digital future is only worth building if it's cleaner, greener, and just. Laura.
At the local level, my city, Harrisonburg, Virginia, requires data centers to be located in industrial zones by special use permit, where we can impose conditions based on what the community's needs are. And likewise, as Lauren stated, sometimes we need state regulation to make sure that blocking a data center in one locality doesn't just send it to another place where it does more harm. So the combination of local and state regulation needs to be adjusted for each case. Now, the potential tax windfall is a large part of the reason why localities or even states want the data centers in the first place, and those have to be balanced with the environmental and social costs. And with that, I need to take off to speak at a panel at the Virginia Clean Energy Summit, where these issues are front and center. Go ahead, next.
Data centers use massive quantities of water, and their water consumption is projected to skyrocket in the coming years. And yet, this water use is unmonitored and unregulated for individual projects. Even basic monitoring and reporting on data centers is largely voluntary when it comes to water consumption. And that's why we need to hold data centers accountable for their impact on local water systems. And to do that, we need enforceable requirements tied to permitting process. Specifically, data centers should be required to do 4 things. First, disclose water use. Second, demonstrate supply for long-term needs. Third, assess local impact. And 4, follow a mitigation hierarchy commonly used in any environmental review process that would ask data centers to show how they will avoid, minimize, and compensate for impacts. So again, all of these basic requirements should be included in environmental review process and as a condition of a permit for data centers. Andriy?
Large impact means significant responsibility. To achieve our policy goals, we need to implement a comprehensive monitoring and reporting system for that data centers. We propose a detailed but not excessive set of indicators that should be monitored and publicly reported to all stakeholders. In particular, such a system includes environmental and climate indicators like resource use and greenhouse gas emissions, social indicators like impact on local communities and investment commitments, also corporate governance and good business practices. I need to emphasize that the third-party verification is a crucial part of our reporting system. We are convinced that accountability and transparency are the best guarantee for achieving the common interest of data centers, economic development, local communities, and preservation of our climate and nature. Over to Vitalii.
Okay, since I think the best decision to make data centers both good for community and for the companies. That's why we looking for some way how to make it useful for both sides. That's why we need to create some policy which would be good for data centers and communities. We understand the harm of data centers, and we can take heat from data centers, can give them possibility to give some positive things for communities and to make it conversation. Thank you so much, Jonathan, please.
And I'm just going to quickly wrap up. If we want a future where connectivity strengthens communities instead of hollowing them out, we must act now, adopt clear environmental standards, pilot community-anchored data centers, require binding benefit agreements, and link every project to clean energy and resilience plans. Thank you for your attention.